Hello there, and welcome to How to Market Your Horse Business with Denise Alvarez. I'm so glad you're joining me here today. Of course, yes, my name is Denise, and just in case we are new friends, I'm going to quickly introduce myself, and then we will jump right into today's interview and the two guests that I have joining me here today. Now, as I said, my name is Denise. And through my business, Storm Lily Marketing, I get to help dream chasing horse business owners to ditch the overwhelm and get the clarity they've been craving so that they can grow their business in a way that meets their definition of success. Now, I do this primarily through business coaching and then education, such as this podcast and some online learning resources for you as well. All that I do, friends, my heart truly is to help you as an equestrian entrepreneur to be out in the barn or the arena or behind the camera lens or even behind the computer, wherever it is that you are serving the equine industry. I want to help you do more of that. And so here on the podcast, you can expect a mix of step-by-step strategies, essential how-tos, and entrepreneurial mindset shifts that will help you not only see what's possible for your horse business, but I'm also here to guide you through that process so you can make it happen. And today we are niching down, my friends. Now, if you do not know, I'm a huge fan of equine businesses getting very specific in who you serve, niching down. You may have heard people say the riches are in the niches. Now, I believe this so much that I actually have 2 other episodes where we talk specifically about this idea. So if you have not listened yet, if you go to episode 155, that is how much should you niche down in your equestrian marketing? And we answer that question as I dive into why it's so important, what it looks like, and the difference it can make. And then I also had a guest on my podcast quite a while back ago. Her name is Danny Powers, and she is an artist, and she has a very specific gift that she has and a very specific niche that she serves in that way. And so if you go to episode number 32, then you can listen to that one as well and hear her story. And she talked about how you only need a certain number of clients per month, and you don't need to have the thousands of people that you always think you need to have. So I encourage you to listen to those after today. But I will have the links to those episodes. You can look them up on any podcast player, but you can also head to the show notes for today, which is episode 174. So if you just go to stormlily.com/174, you'll get to today's show notes, and I'll link to those episodes for you. Now, today is not about niching down, but I went there because I'm talking with Dinette Neuteboom, I'm hoping I got that correctly, and Amy McGann, who have founded HorseGrooms. And so, yes, they specifically serve a very niched down audience of horse grooms. And so they're going to share with you their story, their individual personal stories, which are so fun to always get the background story of what they've done before they came together to build HorseGrooms. And then you're going to learn about what that is, who they're serving, how they're doing that well, and specifically some advice for HorseGrooms. And so if you know somebody or you know someone who has wanted to get into this practice, I love their approach because they are really helping people to see it as a business, because it is. And they're really equipping HorseGrooms so that they can be their own advocate and they can do what they love to do long term. So, friends, get ready. I'm getting ready to introduce you. You're going to love Amy and Dinette. Here you go. Okay, Amy and Dinette, thank you so much for joining me here. I am so grateful for your gift of time. This is going to be really fun.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us. I'm pretty excited about this.
Yes, likewise. Well, this is fun too because we have 3 people on the call. So for those listening, they'll be able to tell who is who because Dinette has a bit of an accent. And so you guys will get to hear where that's from and what that story is. And I love that. And then Amy is here with us as well. So I would love for you all, before we really dive into the concept of HorseGrooms and the unique way that you have niched down, tell us a bit about your own personal story, which I know can be a really big question. So let me just tell you there's grace for that. But tell us a bit about your story and how you've gotten to the place where you are now, which I know for both of you is actually multifaceted. HorseGrooms is a part of what you're doing, but not a whole. So,
Yep.
Amy, on my screen, you're on the left. So, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a bit about your journey.
Sure. So English horse girl growing up. Along the way, I did a bunch of different jobs, and then I had my 20 something crisis and went west from the East Coast to be a cowgirl on horse and cattle ranches. And so that led me to Colorado, Wyoming, and now Montana, where my horse time is mostly spent exercising, hunting, and packing horses. So, like the horses that are carrying equipment, camping gear, and hunting supplies in the mountains. So, mostly spending time in the backcountry. And I work with Dinette on HorseGrooms. I'm the creative director, and I do all things strategy, design, website branding, supporting like the social media in terms of the graphics and how are we telling our story visually and in a written way, and just tying everything back to our mission of horsemanship and community.
I love that. So, tell me, Amy, where does that experience come from? The messaging, marketing, visual storytelling, that type of thing. How did you learn that along the way?
I fell into it about 10 to 12 years ago now when I built my first website. Just something an organization I was a part of asked me to do. And I ended up winning a national award for it on that first one in a pro competition, which was
Wow.
a good confidence boost. Yeah. And
Yeah.
okay, I could probably do this. Um, and so now for the past 3 years, I've been running my own strategy and design agency where I help entrepreneurs of all agencies, though, or industries. So equestrians tend to feel really at home with what I do. Um, I help them tell their story, get clear on what that even is, how to do that in a really authentic, like non cringy way, because it's so hard for us to talk about what we do and the work we're putting out into the world sometimes. And then I help them embody that in, whatever form that takes, whether it's their website, their brand, launching a new offering. I do interior design consulting too. So it's just creating an entire world around what you're doing and doing it in a way that feels like you.
I love that. That's beautiful. So good. Okay, Danette, tell me about your story.
Yeah, that's completely different. I grew up in the Netherlands, not from a horsey family, but I don't know how, but I got obsessed by them. I rode a little bit. I did my instructor uh, education for the Dutch Federation. That's a really good training for a couple years. So I taught a lot of lessons. I groomed. I did in Holland. You do everything. It's not like many people in the US that they go to a barn, show up, and the groom has their horse ready and they ride with the trainer and they go again. It's not like that. It's more you do everything. You clean the stalls, you ride the horses, you drive them to the horse show, you do clean trash, everything. So that's how I grew up, and I groomed a little bit like just after school or after work. But I was a teacher for at a equine college for 11 years. And my whole family has a little bit of an educational background. So that's in my core, I think. And so horses and education have always been like basically a passion of mine, but also traveling. So at some point, I thought like the whole horsey thing was over because I wanted to travel and I didn't want to wait until I was like retired. So I sold my horses, I quit my job, and I started traveling. And but in all this, I went to the US first, to Wellington actually, and I had a job as a groom over there because I just wanted to see the Winter Equestrian Festival. I had heard so much about it and wanted to see it. And then I thought, okay, now it's really over with my horsey thing. And I went to Peru. I learned Spanish and did voluntary work with really poor kids over there. And I traveled South America, but then I ended up in Argentina at a big horse ranch. Not a ranch, like a jumping. It was all jumpers, like a couple thousand horses they had on the Pampa, like
Wow.
brood mares, foals, everything from really brood mares up to the Grand Prix show jumpers. And I just wanted to see the place, and they asked me if I wanted to stay to ride for them. And I had never ridden professionally, but I was a decent flat rider, but nothing special. But they liked what I did, and they offered me a job, and that's how I got back into the horses. And then I thought, like, okay, if people want to pay me for this, then I'm gonna try to keep doing this. And I stayed there for a year, and then I went to New Zealand. I worked there for a while. Then I worked in China for a year, all with horses. And in between all those travels, I wrote. I always wrote for horse magazines in Holland. So the writing and the education and horses have always been part of my life. And eventually, I ended up in the US, and here I still am. And I love. I met Amy at an adventure in Wyoming, a summer adventure where we both worked on a guest ranch over there. And I saw what she did, and I thought it was amazing. And I don't know, a year later or something, I had the idea about for HorseGrooms, and I thought there's only one I would like to do that with, and that's Amy. So that's how we started.
You read my mind. That was going to be my next part, was to lead us into that. But first, like, I mean, so cool. Like, can I just say the places that you've been, the experiences that you had, like, so neat. I just love that. How often do you get back home to see family in Europe?
It all depends, but like once or twice a year. That's
Okay, that's
mainly, yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's really amazing. All that traveling, it opens your eyes, and you start to understand people from different backgrounds, from different cultures. You understand why they say things, why they do things, why they look the way they look, why they behave the way they behave. I've also learned that the directness from us Dutch people is not always is a good thing, but it's not always
Not always an
appreciated.
asset.
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So, you just learn a lot, and I'm really grateful for all those travels that I've done, and I've learned so much. I've seen the horse business in China, in South America, in Europe, in the US. That's pretty amazing, and I realize only now actually how much value that gives basically to also what we do with horse grooms.
Yeah, so tell me about that. So for those listening, I'd love for you to give me a little summary of what HorseGrooms is, and then tell me about how this partnership, you told me a little bit about how the partnership came to be and how it's evolved to what it is now.
I'm going to pass that on to Amy because Amy is a really good speaker. And as you said, I'm an immigrant and my
Oh,
English is
we
limited.
can understand everything perfectly, I promise you.
No, no, no,
Yeah,
no. But
and I guarantee I'm about to stutter or
Amy
something.
is going to tell about that, and I will jump in at some
Okay.
point.
Well, HorseGrooms started, when Dinette originally reached out to me, it started as a blog, right? A way for us to share information, share resources about horsemanship, start trying to connect people to resources, a bunch of different kinds. And then now over the years, it's really evolved to like a much more lived experience. So beyond the website, beyond now even our online community, Danette's in person in Florida and, other events she travels around to, creating these like in-person meetups for grooms and building this really strong community, both on the screen when, you can't be in person and at these events. And the thread below it all has always been preserving horsemanship, great horsemanship practices, and just deepening the sense of community, support, and camaraderie in the equine industry, especially for folks when the days are long,
Mhm.
travel's hard, and sometimes you're a little geographically isolated depending on what your team's doing. Really bringing people together over the desire to learn, the desire to do well by the horses, and just for the love of the sport.
Yeah, that is beautiful. So tell me, Danette, tell me, how did you see the need? Tell me how you saw the need. You clearly saw a need. Were you experiencing it yourself as you traveled around, or how did the problem even come up before you started looking for the solution?
Okay, so there are two things: that is horse welfare and the grooms that were and still are underappreciated, and their amazing knowledge and skills are not recognized by everybody yet. It's changing. It's going in the right direction. But back then, when I thought about it, it was not. Horse welfare, the whole social license issue, was a big issue in Holland already before it was a big issue in the US. At least when it was really recognized as a big issue. We had people jumping into the ring at big international competitions, streakers that were against horse riding and stuff like that. So it was a big issue in Holland already. And I agree with some of it. I think the horse industry should do better. We should take better care of our horses. Not everybody. Some people do it amazing, but some don't do it well. And I wanted to contribute to that. And I thought, what can I do? And I was like, I have a network. I have some knowledge, and I have my online, my writing skills and my educational background. And in that network of mine, it's not that I'm the most amazing groom or the most amazing horse person there is, but I just know enough to recognize people with really good knowledge, to really recognize the experts and know what they say is good, or when they are like fooling people or whatever. You're not real. So, and I have a good connection with most of those people, and they wanted to contribute to sharing knowledge. And so I basically connected all those people in HorseGrooms. And like Amy said, the goal is to keep horsemanship alive, so to improve horse welfare in the end, and to elevate the art of grooming and to put grooms in the spotlights. And that all had to do with me recognizing that the riding horses, equestrian sport was how do you say that? The public opinion was turning a little bit against horse riding. We have to do better for the outside world, and I wanted to contribute to that, and that combined with the grooms led to HorseGrooms.
Okay, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I think there's always a heart behind it, right? And so
Yeah.
that shares really lovely what the heart is behind it and the purpose is behind it. And so tell me, this is a question that I haven't or a concept, I guess. When I think about equestrian entrepreneurs, honestly, and it's probably because of the world that I'm not in Florida. Grooms, right? Being a groom is not really typically at the front of my mind. That's like a path, right? That people can take and that they own their own business. When it comes to being a groom, typically, are they entrepreneurs and they're contracting their work, or are they typically employed by the barn, employed by the rider? Kind of tell us what that looks like from a business perspective.
Yeah, they're typically employed by the barn. But there's more and more grooms want to go freelance. They go freelancing because it's such a hard job, and you work at least 6 days a week, and long days. So at some point, a lot of grooms get burned out, or their body doesn't take it anymore. And they do have a lot of knowledge and experience and great skills. And then they just want to, they finally find out that they have to be a little bit more careful with themselves, basically. And then they go freelance to be able to, how do you say that? To be able to arrange their own schedule, not
Sure.
be.
Have a little more freedom and control at the same time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so let's imagine. I know that I don't think I have a ton of grooms that listen to this, honestly, but I want this to be valuable for entrepreneurs and for grooms that are going to find this because they're finding you all and following what you do and saying, oh, you know what? There is somebody that's out there. Like I talk about niching down. There's somebody that's out there that's actually specializing in helping horse grooms learn the horsemanship side, learn the business side, learn the self-care side, all of
yeah.
those types of things. So let's pretend you're hanging out, having coffee with a groom. What are some of the tips, strategies, and advice that you find yourself giving them, or even that you've written about that have been well received, maybe that you think would help them and or help other equestrian entrepreneurs who are listening?
Yeah, well, the first thing I think is learn as much as you can from as many experts as you can. Always keep learning, because that's what top grooms always say, we share information. If young people want to learn from us, we will do that, but they still keep learning. So don't be narrow-minded, be open to learning. That's the most important thing. And you have so many areas in your job that you could get better in. Like, there's so much, as all the care things, skin care, leg care, and then you have safety, nutrition, veterinarian care, rehab, you have injury treat or wound treatment, rules, administration, FEI rules, doping rules, and then people skills, communication, stuff like that. There's so much that you can learn and get better in. And if you want to, you can also just be a groom who wants to turn out, do the stalls and turn out horses. That's totally fine, of course. But if you want to be an all-round top groom with super horsemanship skills, then you need to learn all of that, because then you can recognize when something is off with a horse, and you can basically prevent it from becoming a big problem. And then you're a really good asset to a top barn. But okay, I talk about a top barn now. If you just have a couple of horses for pleasure, and you have a busy job, and you want a groom who takes care of those horses, that's totally fine too. But still, good horsemanship will prevent a lot of problems, and will keep those horses happy and healthy, which is also for an amateur or for a trail rider very, very beneficial. So that's the thing. I think learn as much as you can, and then but business wise, I think make sure you have a contract in place. That is not a normal thing in the horse industry yet, unfortunately.
Uh-huh.
Not as in the corporate world, but I think you should. And then talk about expectations from both sides. There are still a lot of grooms who get disappointed when they are a couple months or half year into the job, because it's different than what they expected, or different than what they have been promised. And if you have a contract in place, you can just go back to the contract and say, okay, this is not what we talked about. So it's basic employment skills and rules, what is important in the grooming industry. And then I think a lot of grooms, they don't, well, a lot of young people in general, like they don't realize they should save a little bit for retirement. So some grooms don't, they get a W-2 and they get some benefits, but there are a lot of grooms, they find out after they get paid, or at the end of the year, that they get a 1099 and that they haven't been on a W-2. And so then they have to pay their own taxes, and then it costs a lot of money. So a lot of grooms don't have money, but we try to advise with our experts to save a little bit of money, even if it's just a little bit, but also because of that, have a good contract in place and know what you're going to make, how it's how do you say that in proper English? But like, if it's a W-2 or 1099, know how you're going to make your money. And then I think, like, it would be great if employees would give benefits, and you should at least ask about it as a groom, know what it is, because if you get an 401k, for example, that helps a lot for the rest of your life, for later in life. So, and a lot of grooms don't know about that. They are so obsessed by the horses, and they want to have a horse job, and will do everything. But then after a while, after a couple of years or after 10 years, you realize, oh shit, I should have taken a little bit better care of myself, or I should have taken better care of my finances. So I think if that's what they should look at, and then, like you said, like, take care of yourself, eat well, maybe do some stretches. I think you probably move enough during the day, but maybe you lift a lot. You do a lot of heavy work, so you can do stuff to take better care of your body. And communication, people skills, communication. A lot of trainers or barn owners are not typically really well educated in HR skills or stuff like that. So sometimes you have to, but you do it together. So you want to do it. You want to create a good place for everybody. So maybe encourage them to have a weekly meeting, or to have a board with the organization, so everybody knows what's expected and what is done. And then I think learning to organize your day is very important, so that you have so that you know what's coming, that you know what needs to happen, and that you can also take your time to rest or to have lunch or stuff like that.
Okay, a wealth of knowledge clearly, which is which is so good, which is why I think the work that you're doing is so important to that, because to so many of your points, many people, it sounds like, are getting into, yes, actually, many people get into the industry, period, because of horses and forget about the business side, whether it's grooms or not. And I'm sure you guys have both seen that, that you don't expect to be an entrepreneur. You didn't expect to be a business owner. You just wanted to have a horse job. And that happens so very often. And then, especially for grooms, that idea of being your own advocate. That's what I wrote down as a takeaway from what you
Yeah.
said, because much of it is, you are responsible for you and thinking about your future and thinking about your welfare, not just the horse's welfare. And so, if
Yeah.
you want to do this for the long term, to be your own advocate is huge. So, in that, for those that are listening and saying, okay, that sounds great, but what does that look like in practice or in theory, right? What are some of the things that you are teaching grooms to do in terms of how do they show their value? How do they tell somebody, like, I'm going to move to being a freelance position, but I still want to work with you, but this is what I'm going to charge, right? Those things are kind of gutsy moves for a lot of people,
Yeah.
um, that are oftentimes wrapped up in fear. So, what advice or what practical ways do you help people or encourage people to make those transitions?
Ooh. Well, we try to share good practices on the website, and we try to encourage them. And in our community, we have mentors also available, especially in the insiders community that I hope we'll talk about a little bit later. But then that mentors can encourage people also and tell them how to do it. But to be honest, it's not easy for most of us. It's not easy because we are obsessed by the horses, and we hate to ask for money or to sit down with and talk to your superior. So it's not easy, but we try to share good practices in articles and with our mentors, and in communication with the grooms in our meetups. And that's how we try to give an example on how to do it.
Okay, that's so good. So, tell me, yeah, go ahead. Oh, yes, Amy, go for it.
Well, I think our approach to putting out like these bite-sized resources on specific topics really helps people build momentum, with taking more action and having more of these conversations. Like, for example, a couple of things we've talked about have been like nutrition, self-care. Not sure if we touched on like finance and whatnot, but like HorseGrooms has a couple of series of like the HorseGrooms Guide to Nutrition, the HorseGrooms Guide to Finance. And we're starting to have more content coming around your career and advocating for yourself and having conversations as a freelancer. So there's also a freelancer series. And so all these little bite-sized resources are tailored around like how do you build your credit score as a groom?
Yeah.
How do you plan for your retirement? And like these small micro actions of self-care or organizing yourself better as a business owner and looking at yourself more as, someone who, deserves to put all this like, intention around your business and around yourself. Those build confidence to take yourself more seriously and really plan for your future so that you can have those bigger conversations around, well, I'm really doing all the work behind the scenes of planning for my future. And now I'm going to go to my employer and have this conversation to support that. So it's like those micro actions build confidence in the long run. And we're just trying to help people with all those smaller things. So it adds up to a really good, future for them.
Yes, 100%, the micro actions. I love that, Amy. So tell me, I had a twofold question. Now I have to go back because I was thinking of it, but then I was listening to you and I was like, what was that question? Okay, the mentors. That's what it was. Tell me a little bit about that structure when you say insider. So, Horse Grooms is a blog. and it's a membership and it's a community. Tell me a little bit about the structure. So for those listening who maybe know somebody that can benefit and or can benefit themselves, they can go check that out and learn more. But I'd love for you to share, like, what does that structure look like?
Yeah,
Either
I'm also gonna pass this one on
one.
to Amy.
I had a
Okay.
feeling. Okay, so yeah, we have a variety of ways people can get involved depending on what they're looking for. So if people want like some base level resources to up their horse care, whether they're on a competitive team or they're, at home with their horses or they're interested in grooming, they can go to our website, horsegrooms.com, and we have some resources there. Like the blog is a great place to get started on all things from equine nutrition to human nutrition, again, advocating for yourself, finances, the life of an equestrian, and then like features of, what other people are doing out in the world. And then the next level of that is the Horse Grooms community. And that's a private community that you join for free. And we have about 1,000 members right now worldwide. And those are a mix of professional grooms, aspiring grooms, like body workers, other equine professionals, um, and folks who are just coming together to get that next level of learning and support from each other. So more in-depth resources are in there. There's we do a couple of events, like there's a Q&A with a top groom recording there, so you can watch the video and hear what other grooms were curious, asking him about and his answers. And then there's like a groom chat where people can be asking their peers questions, like tossing around ideas, like, how you really take stains out of a white horse and see what people are doing around the world to do that, kind of crowdsourcing information and bouncing ideas off each other. And then the next level to that is Horse Grooms Insiders. So Insiders is a part of the community where we're sharing like our most in-depth resources, the highest level of support. That's where the Horse Grooms mentors are, where folks can go reach out one-to-one to top professional grooms, again, around the world. Like Dinette does a really good job of trying to source people from different backgrounds in different areas. So we have that like well-rounded wealth of knowledge. And so that's a place to kind of go in private, especially like if you were trying to explore something, like having a tougher conversation, going one-on-one to a mentor is a good space for that. But the other things in Insiders are like special perks and discounts in the equine industry, like bodywork courses, equine career and branding and website things. The guide to finance, I think, is in there now. And just again, like our more top level resources for people who are
Sure.
really chasing excellence in the equine industry.
And we
Yeah.
pick a groom of the month.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that is also really cool. That's together with Coro. And then the groom of the month gets an interview, and that gets placed on the Coro website and in the newsletter and on our website, and they win a $100 gift card. So we try to put a lot of perks in there for the grooms, and all the top resources are in there.
That's awesome. I love that so much. So thank you for breaking that down. That's really good for people to know. So going back to the practical side of things and some of the things that you shared, I would love if you would share, uh, well, one, if someone is looking to get hired as a groom, the things that they should be thinking about. And then two, when you're thinking about that long-term plan, I'm just curious, what does when I say lifespan, career lifespan, what does the career lifespan look like for professional grooms typically? And I'm sure that varies greatly, but you've seen
Yeah.
it in different parts of the world. So when we think about career lifespan and somebody's thinking longevity, is it typically a certain season and then past that they move on to different careers and things they're doing inside of the industry? What does that tend to look like?
Well, so in Europe, I wouldn't be able to be a groom my whole life, and I think in the US it's easier. In the English world where I am, it's easier to be a groom your whole life, but it's still really hard. So, um, like a lot of grooms, when they would love to do it their whole life, but if their job doesn't change with them, if they cannot step into a more management job, and they still have to do those horses. They still have to travel to those horse shows, set up, break everything up, and then, pack, unpack, and do a lot of the heavy stuff. If they have to keep doing that until they're 65, that's not going to work for most of them. But if they can, when they are 40 or whatever, or 35 or 45 or 50, transition more into a management job, then it's good for the owner and for the trainer, because they keep so much knowledge in the barn, and they just have to adjust their expectations a little bit. So that is what you see that happening. Luckily,
Okay.
here in the US, in Europe, it's a little bit harder, but I think it's also changing over there. In general, because you do more in Europe, you're not like over here. They have gardeners, they have the trainer, the rider, the groom. You have your own little thing of what you do. In Europe, you do a little bit more of everything. A lot of grooms even drive the truck for 10 or 15 hours to a show after they work or home after they have been working at a horse show for a long day. So it is really demanding. But you see a change, especially here in the US, and then you can have longevity. So you see more and more older grooms stepping in that management job and then have longevity. But there's still a lot to do. It would be great if owners and trainers appreciate the knowledge and experience of grooms and have them transition into a little bit of another role that is less physically demanding.
Okay, that's so good. So you're saying that's happening more and more, but it's
Yeah.
not necessarily typical.
No, not yet. But
Yeah.
it's happening, and that's also what we try to do. So we do a lot of interviews with top grooms or with industry experts, and by showing good practices, good employment practices, we try to show employers also that it is possible. It is possible to do it differently, to not work them to the bone. You guys say, I think, or what? You know?
Yep, you got
Yeah, I got it.
it. Yeah. Okay, that's so good. All right, so I have one. Then that last question was the second half of that, which is to leave out for those that are listening that are saying, I know somebody who wants to get into the industry and then wants to become a groom and has aspirations to become that top level groom. What are like 2 or 3 things that you would tell that person now that they should be doing or they should consider as they move into that? Which I know you covered a ton of ground in the beginning. So I'm just thinking about that getting started phase. What are the things they need to know?
Well, learn as much as you can, if whether it's online but also, of course, practically. So, but important is that you try to find a good place. Check references. I think employees shouldn't be the only one who check references. I think grooms should check references of employees, because there are still too many bad employees out there. So if you want to become a groom, or you have a daughter or a son who wants to become a groom, check the people out that they're going to work for. And if you find a good place, send them there and let them emerge into the barn and learn everything. You probably start low. You start by mucking stalls and grooming horses, but that's the job. That's how you learn, and then try to move up depending on what you want. But try to learn as much as possible, maybe at different places. But check the people that you're going to work for, because if you find a good place, people that care about you and that take care of you, then you can do this for the rest of your life, and then it's a beautiful job.
That's so good. Such good parting advice. Okay, friends, I have one question that's again for each of you. So this is not specific to grooms, but you're both entrepreneurs in your own right and have had your own business yourself in your own right and then have joined together to do a business. So those that are listening are equestrian entrepreneurs as well. So as you've grown your businesses individually and together over the years, is there perhaps one parting advice that you would give your fellow equestrian entrepreneurs? Amy, I'll start with you.
Yeah, start with Amy. Yeah.
Um, One thing I always encourage entrepreneurs of all kinds to think about, whether you're a groom, a photographer, running a small equine business of whatever kind, is deepen the story behind what you do. And that's what branding is. But beyond the logos and the things people talk about, a brand is literally just what you're known for. It's about being intentional with the way you show up, how you communicate, the partnerships you build, and what you stand for. And so, for example, if you're a groom, what's the story you're telling through your work ethic, your attention to detail, or your dedication to welfare? Um, if you're a photographer or a blogger, how can you shift from saying, this is what I offer, these are the services or the education I share about, to this is what I stand for, and here's how our partnership could reflect those values for you too. Because I think when you get clear on the deeper story and what drives you and what you care most about, it not only makes your work more meaningful for yourself and more enjoyable and fulfilling, but it also helps you connect with the right clients, customers, employers, collaborators. And that kind of clarity is really powerful and is what sets you apart in a really authentic way.
Yeah, so good. Yes, 100%. I second that. All right, Dinette, your turn. What have you got?
Yeah, so for me, it's and I came in from a completely different way. This is passion. This is a passion project for mine. But we need to make money at some point to make it sustainable and everything. So I've learned a lot from Amy about telling your story and the brand, the design, and the creativity behind it. But I've also learned a lot from outside the equestrian world. From Amy calls them my blogging babes. But if you and but seriously, when we can learn so much from outside
Yes.
the equestrian world, there's so much knowledge out there also for free. And what you do also, Denise, that's amazing. And I think we can learn a lot from you. You put a lot of resources out there. You have great information in your podcast. And I think that will benefit all of us because more and more is you need to be recognized online. Need to be able to be found online. You need to build trust. And well, I don't know if I make a comprehensive story, but that's what I want to say.
No, I mean, that's so important.
Yeah, it's so important. No, I love that. Yes. Well, and clearly what I keep hearing from you, and I love that because I'm a learner at heart too, is like that always be learning. And as you're learning, then you apply what you're learning and you can see that. So I think that's lovely. And I agree 100%. Learn from others inside the industry. When I'm doing webs, which we talked about, I'm not doing as many websites now, but when I do websites, I would ask them, share with me some websites that inspire you outside of the industry, like get out and learn and see what others are doing for inspiration as well. So that's so very good.
The ones that don't inspire you.
Yes,
like
right.
so often
The
it's
things,
so important.
what is it? Yeah, that's great.
And building the trust is really important. And I think with HorseGrooms, we've been doing that for the past 2 years that we're in the industry, and Amy has really put it out in the world in a beautiful way by her messaging and creativity.
Yep, you're 100% right.
Vision behind it.
Yeah, and what you said both ties in together where Amy said, as you share that story, it builds trust. And then, that branding, and as you make it easy to find you online. And then when they find you, what are they seeing if they have that trust? We've heard often people buy from who they like, know, and trust. I did have someone on the podcast a few weeks ago who was like, technically, you don't always buy from people you like. But if you trust that they are going to deliver on what they said they're going to deliver, you'll buy it either way. So that trust is 100% key. Yeah. Okay, I love that. You guys, let people know where they can find you individually. Like, I'll let you say individually because I know you each have your own individual websites, and I love for people to connect with you there if they can. I will, of course, put it on my website for the show notes so they can easily link to it. But then, of course, where they can find HorseGrooms as well. So, again, I'll go to the left. Amy, tell them where they can connect with you.
Well, for non-HorseGrooms things, my brand strategy and design agency is Unbridled Form at unbridledform.com and Unbridled Form on Instagram.
Perfect. Dinette, go for it.
Yeah, well, people don't really need to find me. They can just find me through HorseGrooms. They can just email to Dinette@horsegrooms.com. They can find us on the website, horsegrooms.com. The community is community.horsegrooms.com. We have a shop.horsegrooms.com with really unique merch that also benefits grooms again. And I think, and on Instagram and on Facebook, we are horse.grooms.
Okay. Beautiful. And do you still blog, Dinette, on your website? I'm trying to remember because I know I was on your website. So for those who are like, oh, she travels and I want to learn more about what she's doing and just see the pictures. Is that on your blog anymore or no?
Yeah, that is on my website.
All right. So we'll link to that.
I put a lot more time in HorseGrooms. Basically all my time into HorseGrooms and not in my website or whatever. So HorseGrooms is my thing.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate what you're doing and especially how you're serving this specific area of the industry. It's clearly needed. It's got a high purpose. And so I'm cheering you on. I love it.
Thank you very much for having us. Appreciate it.
All right, friends. Thanks so much for joining me here today. I hope that you enjoyed getting to know Amy and Dinette as much as I did. And I know that you appreciate so much, like I do, what they are doing and how they're serving the industry. So, as I said, I will have links to all the things so you can connect with what they are doing on the show notes. So, if you head to Storm Lily, Lily. I always say that because I know some people are like, are you having an L in there somewhere? Or where's that at? So it's stormlily.com/174. Okay. Stormlily.com/174. It'll get you the show notes for this episode, the highlights of our conversation, and the links to Amy's website, Dinette's travel blog, and all the HorseGrooms things as well. So you can connect with them and support them and cheer them on also. All right, stay tuned, guys. I have got some more new friends to bring to you over the next few weeks and some additional help with you in your marketing and your strategy for your equine business. Thank you so much for joining me here today. As always, if you've enjoyed and appreciated the podcast, I'd be so grateful if you leave a review on your favorite platform. Apple Podcasts definitely makes it very easy. And the thing is, when you leave a review, what it really is doing is helping them to know that people find this podcast valuable and they will show it to more horse people like you. All right. So we can help more businesses, help the industry thrive more as they continue to build and grow their business using what they've learned here on the podcast. All right. Thanks so much for joining me here. I will see you again next week. Have an amazing day.